Hello, everybody. My name is Susan Tharpe. I am the Executive Director of the Center for Accessible Living. And today, because it's Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday on Monday, we're going to be celebrating that. I have the honor of being with Miss Gerry Gordon, and she's going to talk to us today about her experience with the man himself. And so I'm very excited. I've had lots of coffee. She's excited and I'm excited. And I hope you guys will have some questions. And I guess we will get started. So here she is. How are you doing today?
Okay, I'm fine. I'm very excited. And I want to say thank you very much to the center for inviting me to speak. Okay.
We are so thankful that you did this for us. I want everybody to know a little bit about you. So tell us a little bit about your background.
Okay, I was born in Pulaski, Tennessee. Okay, that's 71 miles south of Nashville. Okay, Pulaski is the birthplace of the Klan. Okay. During that time that I was born, 1940s, we did not have any crime toward our family. My grandfather was a very powerful man in Pulaski at that time. He was the father of 5 boys and 1 girl and 1 daughter. Nobody messed with grandfather, okay? So I don't remember anybody harming us. During that time, of course, it was very hostile with the Klan. There was a lot of lynching, there was a lot of murders and so forth. But it didn't bother us. Then in 1946, my mother became very ill. And that's what brought us to Louisville, Kentucky. She had tuberculosis, okay? She was a patient at Waverly Hills Sanitarium for 3.5 years.
Wow.
My mother was a survivor. She lived and returned home, and we resumed family life. I'm the oldest of 4, 3 girls and 1 boy, and I'm the only one at that time with a disability. I was born with a hearing loss due to hereditary. Both is that from RH blood factor. One parent was RH positive and the other one was RH negative. Okay. So being that I was the firstborn, it affected me. Okay. Wow. Bilaterally. So I've been hearing impaired from birth. The amazing part, I did have a certain amount of residual hearing. Okay. And I was able to go through elementary, middle school, high school, and 4 years of college without hearing.
Wow.
You know, so that'll let you know that I had a lot of hearing, you know. Right. I became a client of vocational rehabilitation. At that time, it was the Bureau of Vocational Rehabilitation. Okay. My counselor was a wonderful woman by the name of Miss Cecil Holmes. She was an African-American woman, and she really was outstandingly supportive to me. So I completed 4 years of college with a Bachelor of Arts degree in sociology.
Oh, wow, that's interesting.
Okay. During that time, counselors would come and visit students in person, face-to-face. Well, my counselor, along with a group of other counselors, she was the only African-American in that group, came to Frankfort one day and to visit us, of course, and they went to have lunch. That's unusual, right. But they were refused service. So they left and found another place. But during that time, it was, you know, a high rate of segregation and discrimination. Okay, so I finished college, came home, and then I left again and moved to Columbus, Ohio. Okay, and then while in Columbus, I had the opportunity to be trained at the University of Cincinnati for a summer job State of Ohio Employment Services. So I worked there for a while. I also worked as a caseworker for the Franklin County Child Welfare Board.
Oh, goodness.
And the majority of my children were in foster care. From there, I got married, gave birth to my daughter. I have one daughter,
okay.
Carla Elizabeth. And we moved on with life. Mm-hmm. And then I decided to return to Louisville to live in 1975. Okay. I returned to Louisville. It was a very hostile time in Louisville. That was the time of busing. Okay. So you had the county school and the city school fighting, combining.
Oh, wow.
Okay. They were very hostile. The children were fine, but the adults were just so hostile, throwing rocks, glass bottles, and so forth. Since I was unemployed at the time, it was my job to transport the kids and bring them home and make sure that they were safe. Okay?
Oh, wow.
So my youngest sister and I, we decided to put our children in Catholic schools. So we put them in Catholic schools to not be bothered and hassle with the busing. Okay?
Right.
So we put them in Catholic schools for a while. And then busing calmed down.
Okay.
And life moved on smoothly. Okay. So she went into public schools. I decided to get married. And then we moved to Jeffersonville. Okay. Jeffersonville, Indiana had a wonderful school. Clark County School was one of the best school systems that my daughter participated in. And then I moved back to Louisville and went on from there, put her in public schools over here. And she graduated from Butler High School.
Oh, okay. Go Butler Bears.
Yeah, from Butler High School. Then she decided to get married. And at that time, I'd already started on the master's program. Mm-hmm. At Webster University with the satellite campus being in Jeffersonville. Okay. Because I was working here. I worked at the Center for Accessible Living for 12 years. Okay. So I had to work here and then drive across the river to go to class. Okay.
Oh, wow.
So that's what I did. So I started the master's program. My daughter decided to get married. I couldn't afford a wedding in the master's program. Right. So I put the school on hold, got her married off in 1993, and then moved back to school and finished up. So I received a master's degree and then went on from there. Left the Center for Accessible Living and took a job with the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Okay. And I was a consumer advocate for a while. And then I became the director of the Kentucky Client Assistance Program.
And we should all know that one.
So I did advocacy on behalf of persons with disabilities, adults, and we provided a lot of information. Okay. And then I worked with the counselors and the client, explaining them to their rights, ADA, and so forth.
Wow, you've had a colorful life. I see. When did you, or previously to being involved with the march, like when did you have a passion for civil rights, and how did you know that you had that?
Well, while I was a student at Kentucky State and participating in the March on Frankfort. The March on Frankfort was my initiation, for lack of a better word, to becoming a lifelong advocate for civil rights and social justice. Okay, that was my name. Prior to that time, I had not participated in a lot, but going away to K-State really opened my life to a lot of other wonderful things going on. Kentucky State was predominantly, African-American college, but we had a lot of exposure to different things. And once we the school found out that Dr. King was coming, then of course we were downtown and to march with him. Okay.
Wow. Well, I want to know, like, what were your impressions of Dr. King?
Dr. King was very compassionate,
okay,
very approachable. He was about business,
okay,
but nevertheless, he had a great sense of humor. We didn't have a lot of time with him because he was brought to the march by private car, okay? And from the car, he just joined the march, okay? And this picture, this is my classmate, and that's my roommate there.
Oh, wow.
Okay, and this is Reverend Walker, Reverend King, and Jackie Robinson.
Wow, yeah, we can see Jackie back there. This is a beautiful picture.
Thank you.
Beautiful picture. And I noticed that you brought this one, which is 50 years later. I don't know if people on the camera can see that. 50 years later, everyone got together and celebrated that march. And I mean, she's brought a lot of interesting paraphernalia to share with us today. And I'll try to get all of that in for you guys so that you can see it. But so how did you feel when you were in that march? Like,
okay, in that march, we were very happy. We were aware of the fact that we were making history.
Yes.
We had no idea as to what we could accomplish. But the reason for the march was for the Public Accommodation Law. Okay. Now, during this march, it did not pass in our Kentucky Commonwealth legislature. It didn't pass, but it did pass later on. Okay. Because at that time, I mean, we were segregated as far as going to public places, you know, coming in the back door, the side door, whatever. But that was the reason for it. Public accommodation.
Wow. And so the energy, was it an inspiring?
Very heavy, inspiring. And I'm just happy to be there, to be a part of history. I don't know that we were aware of the total significance of it, but we did have some idea.
Was there any fear? Anyone fear that, you know, something may happen during this march?
I think we had that fear, but it was like we were not afraid. We were not afraid. We had a mission to accomplish, and with Dr. King there, it really put a lot of emphasis on what we were trying to do. So it was all right.
Wow. That's just fascinating that, you know, as a young person, that you get that opportunity to do something. And like you said, you knew it was significance, but you really didn't know the historical, ramifications of that. And you bought some beautiful things.
It was 10,000 people.
10,000. Were there cameras or anything there? Or back then, I suppose not.
I guess they did. I think we were just so caught up in the movement at that time. I suppose they did.
Right. Did you, and so you said you really didn't fully understand the impact of what was going on at the time. You just wanted to be involved.
Yeah, just wanted to be involved because we knew it was a historical moment.
Wow. Well, tell me, so in what ways do you believe the civil rights movement of 1950s and 60s improved the conditions for African-American people?
Well, 50s and 60s covers a long time in our lifestyle. But I will say, we always made it work. We as a population or a race of people always made whatever was going down, we made it work.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? We were responsible from that standpoint. During that time, you had the Brown versus the Board of Education.
Oh, yes.
Okay. So that made our life a little bit better because education was separate, but not equal.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. The other thing that I remember during that time was the Montgomery Bus Boycott with Rosa Parks.
Oh, yes, yes.
Okay. So you had a number issue going on at that time. You had to sit in at the counters, especially here in Louisville, like at Walgreens and whatever. You had Dr. Lyman T. Johnson, who was very instrumental in civil rights. He was also my teacher at Central. Oh, really? He taught civics at Central when I was a student. Dr. Johnson also, as you know, was the first student to be allowed to attend the University of Kentucky. Yes. So there was just a lot of things going on during that time. But those are two major events. Wow. And then, of course, Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech in Washington, 1963. That's about all I can remember right now, but those major events. Right. There was a lot going on and a lot of different things that were impacting not only African American people, but people with disabilities and other people under the civil rights law. And so in what respects do you feel Blacks are still disadvantaged in relationship to others in America right now? What are some things that maybe you think we need a little bit more? We have a long way to go. Yes. We've come a long way, but we have a very long way to go. And unfortunately, during this time, with the administration, with the Trump administration, yes, he has brought back white supremacy and racism. And then we also are dealing with police brutality, as you well know, here in Louisville with Taylor's shooting. There's just a lot going on. And then, of course, we have the pandemic, yes, the virus, and then we have the new strand of the virus, which is in Indiana, probably on its way to Louisville. Oh my goodness. But there again, I go back to my original statement, we just make it work. We deal with it and we make it work. But what I will say is that the sit-ins, the marches and so forth, what that means is people are hurting. Yes. People are in pain. Mm-hmm. People need jobs. We need jobs. All of us need jobs. We need education. We need housing. Yes. We need loans. Yes. For homes as well as small businesses. And in the banking environment, there's something that keeps us out, and that's called redlining. Yes. Can you explain what that is for some people who may not know that? Okay. Am I putting you on the spot? Redlining through the banks or other financial institutions applies to certain zip codes. And those zip codes mainly are in the West End. Okay, so you got 410, 410, 11, 412 prevented from having loans, or either they have them at such a high interest rate they can't afford them. Wow. So it's still going on today? It's still going on. It might not be as high as it has been, but it's still going on. And I guess the same thing is going on in the disability movement. I know, we've made a lot of progress, but some of the things that we're finding is that, and during those years when people were rallying and marching, a lot of our older people who have disabilities have fought the fight. And what we find is some of the younger generation really doesn't know the historical aspects of the struggle. And so we still have a long way to go with housing and the rights of people with disabilities. And the pandemic, a lot of people know and a lot of people don't know, we got a large amount of money to be able to help people with disabilities during the pandemic. And what we're finding is there are a lot of people that just aren't asking for help. Affordable, accessible housing is already an issue, and then you tack on this, and it really has been a struggle. And so we have a lot of work to do in both areas. Yeah, and when I worked here at the center, one of my responsibilities was as a housing coordinator. Oh. So housing was a major request, and you have to give people what they need and what they're asking for.
Yes.
Housing as well as personal care attendant.
Yes.
And I had the experience of lobbying for a personal care attendant bill in the legislature. So it would pass and granted money for persons to stay in their homes and not in nursing homes. Right. So I had the pleasure of working with Section 8, Louisville Housing Authority, all of that. People needed housing, still do, and accessible housing too.
Yes, that's one of our top programs here at the center. The phone calls come in daily where people are looking, and for those of you who may not understand, you might get a Section 8 voucher, but finding a place that if you do need some accessibility features, that's accessible, that's affordable, that's in a safe place is very challenging.
Very challenging.
All these years later, you were here a long time ago, and it's still an issue.
But it's still an issue. I mean, I have contacted a housing person here to help me out with some of my clients. I'm also a peer manager for the deaf and hard of hearing, and I'm not only dealing with the hearing issue, but I'm dealing with other issues that's going on in their life that they need information for.
Wow, that's good that you're still, after all these years, you're still involved in society and still helping people, whether those are people with disabilities or African-American people.
Doesn't matter.
I think once an advocate, always an advocate,
right,
you say?
Right,
yeah.
Right.
Boy, it's been wonderful just having a conversation with you. But I wanted to ask you, what other important people have you been involved with in your lifetime?
Okay. I had to go back. You made me think. I said, who have I been talking to during this time? Well, the first person is Ann Brayton.
Okay.
Ann Brayton was an outstanding journalist. Okay. And we have the Ann Brayton building on Broadway. Okay. I'm on the board of directors for the Ann Brayton Center. And then also I've been working with the Ann Brayton Institute, which is under the direction at U of L. Okay. Under the direction of Dr. Kate Fossil. Okay. And they have created a civil rights guide. Okay. And I'm going to leave this with you. Yeah. This guide is composed of 22 stops in Louisville. Okay. That's awesome. And I've had the pleasure of leading some of the civil rights tours. Okay. So this is what I want to leave with you. Okay. Well, I didn't know on that tour. You have Zion Baptist Church, where Reverend A.D. King was the pastor, and that was the brother of Reverend Martin Luther King. So he came to Louisville a number of times, okay? Wow. And at Zion Baptist Church. Also, you have Dr. Lyman T. Johnson's home. Okay. You have a number. You have a number. Muhammad Ali Center is on the list. The Brayton Memorial Center is on the list. Okay. Ann Brayton's home on Virginia Avenue is on the list. Okay. And how would, so forth and so on. How would someone go about, like, how often are these tours taking place? As requested. Okay. As requested. Anytime, every time. And you guys will have these here at the center. If anybody's interested in taking a historical tour, let us know. That's awesome. I heard, though, that you went to school with someone that's the GOAT. Yes, I was at Central High School during 1950s, 1960s with Cassius Clay at that time, who later became Muhammad Ali. Okay. He graduated with my sister in 1960 from Central High School. Some of the other people that I have had the pleasure of meeting, is Muhammad Ali's wife, Miss Lonnie Ali. Yeah, at the Muhammad. I met her. And then also, of course, Ian Brayton.
Okay.
Dr. Let me see, Reverend Jesse Jackson. I participated in the Rainbow Coalition when I came back home. I also attended the Democratic Convention when he was running for president.
Okay.
Maxine Waters, she's the congressman from California. Had the pleasure of meeting her. Let me see, Maya Angelou.
Oh, wow.
She came here and spoke at one of our local universities, and I can't remember the college that she spoke of, but my sister and I drove to hear her.
Okay.
So I had her. And then one of the other persons more recently was Angela Davis.
Oh my goodness.
She came and she was part of the Ian Brayton presentation one time. A wonderful group of people that we went at U of L.
Wow. She's powerful.
And I met Rosa Parks in Atlanta. I also had the pleasure of meeting Mrs. King. Okay.
Oh.
So that's about it.
Wow. Did you ever think that that life would take you along this path that you've been on?
No, I just made it a point to take advantage of that opportunity whenever it occurred. And then I guess I got excited afterwards.
Well, that's one of the things here at the center is that, we encourage people to get involved and to, if things don't seem right, advocate on your own behalf, get educated, learn as much as you can. And then if things don't seem right, try to change it, whether that's a march or a sit-in or a rally. Things are never going to get better if you don't advocate for your own behalf or things that you believe in.
Absolutely. And I wanted to say too, I was able to go, and I was still working here. I was able to go to DC when the ADA was signed.
Oh my goodness.
President George Bush signed the American with Disabilities Act into force.
Tell us about that.
That was July 1990, I think, July 26, 1990. Yeah. A wonderful and exciting time, because up until that point, there was nothing on the book to protect us, absolutely nothing. So people could discriminate against us whenever they felt the need. Wow. But with the ADA, it opened up a lot of doors that had been closed to us. Right. So that was just an outstanding civil rights bill, really.
Were there hundreds and thousands of people there during that event? Did you take some pictures and you spent?
Yeah, well, I took some pictures, and I have some pictures at home. I just didn't have a lot of time.
That's okay. We'll invite you back for the next.
Okay.
Maybe we'll have little meetings between you and I where you'll share some information with me. Yeah, but you've had an incredible life. I haven't done half of the things that you've done. What do you feel? Do you feel like the Americans with Disabilities Act opened a lot of doors for people with disabilities? And do you feel like there's more that needs to be done for sure?
Okay, yeah, the ADA definitely opened a lot of doors for us. There is a lot to be done. We've come a long way, but we still have a long way to go. And what we have always said, attitude is the biggest disability.
Yes.
People's attitude can lock doors, okay? But like you had talked about being an advocate, you have to stand up for your rights. You have to learn. You have to educate yourself. And you have to it's okay to say, no, I won't accept that. Either it's not right. Being a self-advocate is powerful.
Yes.
And you don't have to be mean. Kindness is powerful.
It is.
It is. So that's where we are.
I think a lot of people, think that being an advocate means that you have to be aggressive. And being an advocate, like you said, sometimes is the kindness or just being assertive instead of aggressive.
Assertive is the key word. Yes. Assertive.
Yes.
Yeah, I like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have had so much fun. I wanted to ask you a couple of questions off the book. You worked here at the center. What was your journey like here when you started out in housing?
Yeah, I started out in housing, housing, information, and counseling. We had peer counseling. Okay, peer counseling, housing especially, information and referral, advocacy definitely. Okay, we had a group of persons who had met on a regular basis here. Okay. We had an annual Christmas party. Okay. And then we had Cass Irving was one of the board members, okay, and a dear friend of mine. She worked a lot in arts, okay? And we had a number of people who would go to the different art performances because at that time, you could get into some of them. Some of them were accessible.
Right.
We also worked with the Kentucky Arts Council, where they had certain seats that you could be removed. If you went with someone, obviously you wanted to sit with them.
Yes.
You know? So some of those seats could be removed where you could sit with the person. We were instrumental in working with the Kentucky Arts Council. Also, Cass Irvin and I were members of the Kentucky Arts Council. Okay. And our concern was definitely accessibility.
Right.
A lot of your art organizations didn't have a lot of money.
Yes.
And they would put in places that offered space, in some cases free, but were a lot of times inaccessible. So we could put, okay, you can't get in. Okay, you need to move it.
Right.
You need to move the office to a more accessible place.
Right.
Okay.
Was it difficult to get them to do that? Were they pretty open to that?
It depends. It depends. Sometimes yes, and sometimes no.
And so you were the associate director the last time. Well, for the last.
At the end, toward the end.
Wow. So you.
It was two of us that were associate directors. The other one was Annie King.
Okay.
And Annie King was a counselor.
Okay.
And as a matter of fact, she lived in California now. She retired and moved to California.
Wow. Well, it's an interesting day. We've got a lot going on. And the center's, looking to do more, I guess, in the community in terms of advocating. I know we are trying to do a few things to help people with disabilities. I believe advocating is the only way that we're going to get those things. And so, I mean, anytime you feel like you want to come and hang out or offer us some, I personally will take any advice you have.
Okay. I still feel like I'm welcome here.
Yes.
And I've been here on a number of cases, and I worked with the person who was in charge of deaf services. I can't think of her name.
Randall.
Yeah.
Yes.
I worked with Randall because I had a client who was, she was deaf. And Randall and I worked with her. Okay.
Yes,
yeah.
Yes.
And also the housing person.
Leanne.
Yes. Oh, yes. Leanne has been wonderful in helping me with housing.
Yes.
Because I'd be having a question about Section 8 or whatever. You know. Yeah. Right. Leanne has been top of the line.
Yeah, we have the ASL interpreting program, and one of the things during the pandemic was, a lot of people read lips. A lot of people, that's their way of effective communication. And so we've been working with a lot of the dentists and doctors' offices to, incorporate masks that are clear. And so there's been a lot of work on that. A lot of them did not want us to come in because of the pandemic. And so we had to advocate to be able to have the interpreter in there to make sure that there was effective communication. So it's always going to be stuff for us to do.
Right, and the pandemic has made us do things differently.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? I'm on the board of directors for the Kentucky Commission on the Deaf and Hard of Hearing.
Oh, good.
So one of the things, like you said, are the math and so forth, and of course, total communication, lip reading, your voice, and definitely ASL, and American Sign Language. And
what's interesting, I must give our governor a round of applause, because I think he,
with Virginia Moore,
yes,
she put us on the map.
Yes, she did, and it's interesting to see, because in the beginning, a lot of them did not have American Sign Language people up. And now almost every event has, and so that's been a very educational moment for everybody. And Virginia was teaching sign language to the Kentucky residents, and Andy was learning. And so that's been very good for our program and for people to understand that it's important.
It is very important.
Yeah.
It's very important. Communication, we live in a hearing world.
We do,
but
we do.
Those of us who have hearing impairment, we still have responsibilities for family. We have the same needs as able-bodied people have.
Right.
We have families, we have children, we have jobs, we drive, it's the whole independent living participation.
Well, it was brought to my attention. I had never thought about it, but the deaf culture is a very distinct culture, and there's a lot of key elements that people really never would think about. And I had to take a moment and learn about that as well. I mean, it's always an opportunity to learn, because I don't know everything about the different disabilities. I try to be open and learn, but
sure.
And
we're equal opportunity. So
yes,
come in whenever you can.
Right. But I learned, one of the things, with the police officers, and if they were to be pulled over, and because there is no effective communication, you want to get somebody that can say, hey, I'm deaf. I can't understand what you're saying to me. I never really thought of that. I never really thought about that, but that could be quite challenging.
Oh, it is challenging. The commission has composed a card that you can carry in your car. Okay. So if you are stopped, then you can show this. I carry one in my car to say that I'm hearing impaired or deaf or whatever. But the card will explain that there is a communication issue.
Oh, wow. Anybody that is needing any of those, we'd love to pass those out. I think that's a key in any.
That's definitely a key element. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Because the officers don't know ASL.
Yes. And I mean, I guess if you ended up in jail or something, you would need some way to say, hey, I don't understand what you're saying, or I need an interpreter.
Right.
If you needed an interpreter.
Right. The late Norma Lewis interpreted a lot in the court system. I don't know who's there now, but she did a lot of that, interpreting in the legal system here.
Wow. Well, do you have any questions for me?
No, I don't have any questions for you. I just want to thank you for extending this invitation for me to come and talk about part of my life. Because being an advocate has been a very important part of my lifestyle. And now that I'm 80 years old.
Oh my goodness, you are not 80.
Yes.
You have more spunk than I do. Oh my goodness. I need to eat some vitamins or something. You're very spunky.
Yes. I turned 80 in March.
Oh, wow.
And I'm so blessed, Susan, to have decent quality of health. Yeah. Okay. I'm able to be the same independent person that I've always been. Yes. I have a wonderful family. My daughter and her husband, they have 3 sons,
Oh.
And so they are my three wise men. Everybody's working and being responsible. And then I have three great-grandchildren.
Oh my goodness.
I have a 6-month-old, a 2-year-old, and a 5-year-old.
Oh goodness.
I have 2 girls and 1 boy. Okay.
Wow.
We lived, my first house was on Radcliffe, that's in West End. And then in 2017, purchased another home, and we live in Shively now. It's a block from Butler High School.
Oh, okay.
So my daughter and her husband, they live with me. They didn't want me to be by myself.
Well, that's good. You still have your independence.
They said, well, why are we concerned? You know, you're never home. I said, good.
That is awesome. Well, you know, that means that all of that advocating and being out there and putting yourself in those positions really has paid off and made your life very fruitful. You're alive, you're doing well, you got a loving family, and you've got your great grandkids. And that's fantastic.
And then I wanted to share with you some of my travels.
Okay.
With the Center for Accessible Living, and then also going to Frankfort. I've been traveling to meetings everywhere, Chicago, Washington,
wow,
San Francisco, everywhere. And then on my own, my personal travels, I've been to Europe. I've been to Europe, specifically Amsterdam and Paris. And London, okay? And then another trip I had was to West Africa.
You went to West Africa?
Togo, West Africa, Ghana, and Benin, okay? So I've been where we as a race came from, especially in Ghana.
Was that just a personal thing that you wanted to do in your life?
Yeah, I've always wanted to go to Africa.
Wow.
And then before the pandemic started, a friend of mine and I, we were going to Israel, but that was put on hold.
I would love to do that.
Maybe once this is over, maybe we can resume our efforts to travel to Israel, I hope.
You know, that's one of the things about me. You know, I'm an Air Force military brat, and so I'm used to diversity. I love diversity. I love to learn about different cultures and different lifestyles and different people. And, you know, that's one of the things I like to do too, is to travel. Because I think, you know, for anybody, whether that's a person with a disability or a minority person, if you have questions, ask the questions so that you can get that information to help you be educated on the different cultures that we have here in America.
That's true.
Yeah, I see you went back to a question. Are you going to ask me something?
No, I wanted to say, also I had the opportunity to attend the presidential inauguration of Barack Obama. Both of them.
Are you serious?
Yeah, we went to both of them. My friend and I, we got together and we drove and traveled to Washington. I just wanted to say that we continue to learn, continue to work with each other, and come to the table and discuss and come up with solutions.
Yes.
And I just wanted to read something that Barack Obama had said at the closing. Okay. And I quote, "Change will not come if we wait for someone other than the person or ourselves to do it, or some other time. We are the ones that we have been waiting for. We are the change that we seek."
Oh, wow.
Unquote. Barack Obama.
I think that's very good, because it's right. If you don't start the process, you can't sit around and wait for others. It first starts here. Yeah, you got some things around the room that you bought. I know this picture is beautiful. You brought some T-shirts from different events that you've been to, and I was wondering if and we may have. Do we have questions?
No, I just wrote down comments if Gerry wants to read them later. People are really enjoying this.
Okay. there's some comments for you. People are sending posts online. But so you've been to the statue of Martin Luther King, Dr. Martin Luther King in, and you've got a bag over there from that. And then there's some t-shirts.
Want me to take the laptop camera around?
Yeah, that's gonna be, that might be a little difficult. Maybe we'll.
Do you want individuals to get the opportunity to ask questions?
Sure, Carissa.
If anybody has a question, they can post it in the chat and we'll get it to Ms. Brown.
They're finding out if anybody has any questions.
Okay, and then I want you to repeat it. I can hear them talking, but I can't.
I will.
It feels like there's no space between the words.
Really?
For my hearing, yeah. I don't listen to the radio. I can't understand what they're saying. I hear it.
It's just one big.
Right.
Wow. I think somebody sent a question. We've got a lot of people on today, and this is going to be on our Facebook, on our social media, on my LinkedIn page. And so you're going to be a celebrity again.
No, just comments.
Okay. Well, we have a lot of different things that she's brought in today, but I guess we could snap some pictures of those things and put them on our Facebook page.
Sure, you're welcome to.
So that everybody can enjoy those. I want to thank you so much for coming to hang out with us here at the center.
You're more than welcome.
I really appreciate this, especially during a pandemic, everybody. You were so gracious in a short amount of time, and we really appreciate it.
Okay, you're more than welcome, and it's always an honor to come to the Center for Accessible Living because it's part of a personal history.
Thank you. Okay. Are we good?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we will let everybody go. Thank you all for tuning in.
Have a good day.